All right, well, just to give you guys some context while we get started, I'm Eric. I'm from FIS Global. I work on a core banking product called Modern Banking Platform. It's FIS's latest attempt at modernizing cloud banking operations. So we have a lot of legacy products. Modern Banking Platform is the attempt to kind of disrupt our own business model and move core banking products towards a more cloud-focused architecture. So that's kind of my introduction. Andy, I don't know if you want to give yourself a little bit of context.
Yeah, I'm Andy Luckup from HCL, and I kind of belong to the SRE practice as a center of excellence, as an advisory towards providing FIS as they were planning to scale up in operationalizing the observability across the board for the more than 700 plus platforms. So closely worked with FIS and many other team members to get the program up.
That's right. It looks like we got our PowerPoint up here now, so let's talk about some observability. So just to give a little bit of context, we're going to talk a lot about observability today, but also we're going to tie that into a lot of SRE practices and principles, because in my opinion, you can't really have observability without tying that into the frameworks and principles of SRE. So just to start, so we're just going to go through our agenda real quick, just 4 really quick, simple topics: a problem statement, what we did to address that problem, our key challenges, and the outcome. I said that in the wrong order, but you guys get the idea. So let's get started. All right, so I'm not going to go through all these individually, but we had a big problem in FIS. I would say, when I say in the past, I mean 2022 FIS, I would say. So we were really focused on monitoring, not observability. So when you think about monitoring versus observability, monitoring is more of the what and when of a problem. Observability is more of the why and how. So we were really good at catching the what and when, and almost to a fault, we were over-catching the what and whens with a lot of false positives, but we were not very good at catching the why and the how. So obviously, when you think about that, I'm going to take you through an example of an incident, how we would have handled it in 2022, right? So alert fires or a client reports a problem, all hands on deck on a bridge. We find the problem in our Splunk logs. Okay, this is returning a 500 error, for example. We go to the app team. The app team says, yeah, it's returning 500. It could be database, could be network, could be this, could be that, right? We don't really have clear context on where the actual problem lies. So they kick it to DBA, DBA kicks it to networking, networking goes back to the app team. It's this circular fashion of not knowing where the problem really lies, because all we are is catching symptoms. We're not catching the why. So observability really helps with that problem, right? Now we have clear visibility into where the problem actually lies, and all of these problems map to the same underlying problem of a poor customer experience. So that's kind of where we were in 2022. We're going to take you through what we dealt with when we were trying to transform our organization from more monitoring focus to observability focus, and then we're going to take you through what the outcomes were of that transformation. So I'll take you to the key challenges now.
Yeah, so one of the aspects when it comes to observability is whenever you go to an ops team, they all say they have the most perfect monitoring tools or monitoring instrumentation and telemetry in place, right? But typically there is, yes, it is true, but most of the alerts that get generated, they are overwhelmed with what is more critical in terms of what to look at. So as part of the process, our definition, we worked collaboratively with FIS, is to scale by having a methodology on how to look at the core business value streams that particular platform supports. In the core banking platform, account activation or a payment that a banker or an end customer would do. We would then have those signals tied to these observability dashboards and provide service level objectives in making sure that if for some reason there are higher error rates towards the payment, then the ops teams can go in to do that. So the whole methodology on how you capture these SLIs and SLOs across each platform owner, and how do you instrument that, And so it was a training process, and most importantly, it's an operation mind shift into a more SRE mind shift that they needed to look at. So we helped through the process of operationalizing more than 100 plus platforms within a FIAS, and it was an incredible story.
All right, so we're going to move on to some of the actions we took and the outcomes. So just to speak a little bit more on kind of the value that HCL added in this space, you could think of them more in the advisory role. They were really telling us how to implement this, but they weren't implementing it for us. That's kind of where I came in, as the product owner or the platform owner of MVP. An MVP, it's a fairly new product, so a lot of the people had this sort of new age mindset of being able to, understand why there's value in observability and, SRE principles in general, but we didn't really have the framework or the buy-in at the executive level to really get these things implemented and enforced in a repeatable manner across products. So while MVP might have understood those principles and thought, yes, we can do this and we just need a framework for it, a lot of other products didn't even have that framework or understanding of why this was a value add. So that's where HCL really came into the picture. So some of the actions we took, we defined our SLIs, SLOs. That's a pretty straightforward practice. We upskilled a lot of our leadership and management in SRE practices. We took the SRE practitioner and SRE foundations courses. That had a huge value add. One of the key lessons I took away, and something I preach to my team every day now, is that you need to be automating last year's job. Every single year, you need to be thinking about automating this year's job while you're automating last year's job, because if we're not, then someone else is gonna, and then we're not gonna be in the job anymore. Some of the outcomes, really the main one I want to focus on is the top one. We reduced our operational client credits by 77.9% 2022 versus 2023. MVP is a small product, so it's a small drop in the ocean of the whole FIS product suite, but that is huge when you think about how much we actually scaled the product from 2022 to 2023. We went from a couple 100,000 accounts in 2022 to 2 million plus in 2023. Again, not huge in the grand scheme of things, but for an immature product to do that level of scale and have that outcome, that's significant in my book.
Yeah.
Andy, I'll turn it over to you.
And very often everybody looks at observability only in the production environment, but we also institutionalized observability practices as part of your SDLC practice. So you have now new pipelines as part of the testing, performance testing. You have dashboards where you define your SLI and SLO objectives, whether it's a response time for an API or error rates. So we simulate that activity within part of your code delivery, and then we kind of observe observability on real time and measure against that. So the practice of introducing shift left upstream is another methodology that has been introduced, and it's working fine with all the dashboards that we have. And we'll show you a little few samples of those dashboards.
Yeah, so just one other last thing I want to talk about. We didn't really make a slide on this, but I just want to talk about future state, what we're still trying to do to improve even further. The biggest thing I would say is the cross-functional collaboration across operations, development, business, product. We've been pushing for, as an SRE team, to get a points budget in the sprint planning cycle every single sprint, so that we can feel heard in the shift left, direction that we've been getting from our executive leadership. Because right now, it's pretty much like we reach out to development, tell them there's a problem, and they say, we'll prioritize it at some point. But we never get visibility into what they're prioritizing based on our feedback. So that's just one huge thing that I think we need to focus on. And I think that's really it. Andy, do you have any other closing comments?
Yeah, one last thing is everybody has investments in the monitoring tools. Most of the enterprises that we come across, our methodology and means to do is how do we make sure that we only look at the most critical processes and how you enrich those platforms to show the right kind of dashboards and reports. And I think we can just quickly show some of the, you can talk to it.
Sure, yeah. So this is our production Code Connect dashboard. So Code Connect's essentially a client gateway. So this just shows your overall availability over time. You know, some SLIs would be availability, TPS, slows 10%, and then you can filter on, you know, if you only want to look at a certain API, you only want to look at, you know, a certain trace, whatever you want to do, you can put that in the additional filter right there. This is just another part of that dashboard, but essentially more SLIs, gets more granular towards the bottom if you really wanted to deep dive into anything. And then I think we have one more, yeah. So this is a different SLI, but still kind of ties into the whole SRE practice. This is actually our batch file deliveries. So, you know, I've been talking mainly about APIs. We also have, you know, a huge other suite of functions that we need to track when it comes to our SLIs, and a key function of that is our batch SLAs. So, you know, if we don't deliver a file on time, we pay a penalty, those types of things. So we need metrics around all those types of things to really make sure we're watching the entire footprint of FIS and the entire footprint of modern banking platform and its SLAs and SLOs.
I think
that's it, guys. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's give it up for Eric and Andy.
Yeah.
Excellent.